In the final days of the kingdom of Judah, the streets of Jerusalem are crumbling under the weight of systemic corruption. The wealthy elite actively oppress the vulnerable, and civil leaders routinely subvert the legal system for their own personal gain. Living in the middle of this is the prophet Habakkuk. He is watching his society tear itself apart, and the daily flood of violence leaves him in profound emotional distress. He is trapped in a theological paradox. God's law, the moral framework meant to govern the nation, is still on the books, but it is completely paralyzed. The righteous are surrounded and overpowered, rendering the legal system entirely useless against the wicked. Habakkuk takes his frustration straight to heaven with a direct, accusatory question. He demands to know how long he has to cry out violence while God watches the trouble and refuses to save them. Habakkuk is caught between his conviction that God is just and the physical evidence that injustice is winning. The silent sky makes the visible cruelty of the streets impossible to reconcile. God breaks the silence, but the answer is horrifying. He announces that he is raising up the Chaldeans as an instrument of divine judgment. The Chaldeans are the fiercely aggressive people who make up the sweeping Babylonian Empire. This swift military machine is ruthless. Their cavalry moves faster than leopards, crashing through borders to devour territory that does not belong to them. Habakkuk is immediately horrified. Judah's corruption is bad, but the Babylonians are a terror state defined by extreme violence, cruelty, and blatant idol worship. He approaches God with a second, much sharper philosophical complaint. He asks how an eternal, holy God can justify weaponizing a massively wicked empire to swallow up people who, despite their flaws, are still more righteous than their conquerors. God's initial answer doesn't resolve the problem of evil, it magnifies it. Using a brutal empire to punish corrupt leaders pushes Habakkuk to a limit that demands a deeper revelation about how divine justice actually works. Habakkuk decides to take a stand. He climbs up to a sentinel's watchtower, shifting from active complaint to active waiting, determined to see how God justifies this plan. God tells him to grab a tablet and write down the upcoming vision so clearly that a passing runner can read it. The message is that ultimate justice operates on a guaranteed divine timeline, even if it feels delayed to human eyes. The Lord lays out the core dichotomy of reality. The proud, arrogant soul is inherently unstable and crooked, while the righteous person will survive by relying entirely on their faith. On one side, Babylon piles up stolen wealth, building cities on blood, its massive weight balanced against an absolute moral void. Deceiving neighbors and trusting in lifeless idols causes the entire structure to collapse under its violent weight. From his vantage point on the tower, the mechanics of divine judgment are laid bare. Evil is not a permanent state, but a self-consuming engine. True justice isn't found in a single battle, but in the eventual day when God's glory covers the earth as completely as the sea covers the sand. Habakkuk stops demanding answers and pours out a prayer set to music. He reflects on the ancient fame of God's deeds, asking him to renew those historical interventions in the present day. The prophet is hit with a terrifying cosmic vision of God's physical manifestation. The sky fills with a blinding brilliance, the sun and moon freeze in their tracks, and ancient towering hills crumble into dust before the expanding light. This display of force has a specific, highly targeted purpose. The Creator is marching across the trembling earth as a warrior, arriving exclusively to secure the salvation of his people. Securing that salvation requires catastrophic destruction. Pestilence and plague sweep forward as his vanguard, striking the sea and completely crushing the head of the wicked. Witnessing this overwhelming, earth-shattering power shifts Habakkuk's perspective entirely. The terrifying threat of the Babylonian military machine suddenly shrinks when compared to the absolute sovereignty of God. But the vision offers no illusions about the immediate future. The physical devastation heading for Judah is unavoidable. The fig trees fail to blossom, the grapevines wither, and olive crops yield no food. The economic collapse will be absolute. The sheep will be cut off from their pens, and the cattle stalls will sit completely empty, wiping out all physical security for the nation. Facing this total desolation, Habakkuk makes a radical pivot. He declares an active, deliberate choice to rejoice in the God of his salvation, completely independent of material blessings or physical safety. He uses the metaphor of a deer treading securely on treacherous heights to explain this resolve. Even when the ground gives way, God provides the supernatural stability needed to navigate the steepest, most dangerous cliffs. This is the essence of radical faith. It does not deny the reality of suffering, and it guarantees no physical safety. It is the defiant choice to find unshakable joy strictly in the character of God, regardless of what the future brings.